So far, we've made several videos covering everything that got the new Buffalo Bills and new Tennessee Titans stadiums off the ground. And after years of waiting, it's time for our first major construction update. Lots of progress has been made in New York and Nashville, so let's check in on what's been going on. Starting off with the Buffalo Bills. Last time we checked in on the new Highmark Stadium, the Bills, Erie County, and the state of New York had just broken ground on the project in a private, invite-only ceremony for a stadium that is more than half funded by taxpayers. Construction started by excavating the site for the new stadium's lower bowl, also called the event level, and dirt removal continued for the next 9 months. After site preparation was complete, concrete pouring commenced, which continued in tandem with steel and iron work on the stadium's skeleton structure, with a ceremony celebrating the installation of the first steel beam taking place in February 2024, and the final concrete pour for the stadium's foundation being completed in May. Precast pieces of concrete that are used to make up the walls of the interior of the stadium began being placed in June, which was quickly followed by the installation of precast riser pieces, all 1,400 of which were manufactured off-site. Once interior pieces that required a crane to be placed were installed, cranes outside the stadium began installing pieces of the stadium's canopy. Throughout this phase of construction, 500 workers were on site at any given time, but according to Vice President of Stadium Development for the Buffalo Bills, John Polka, there will be up to 1,200 personnel on site once the final structure is in place in the spring of 2025. In the fall of 2024, New York Governor Kathy Hochul was asked why don't New York taxpayers get an equity stake in the stadium in exchange for the subsidy to construct it. Hochul responded by saying that income taxes from the players' salaries alone will pay for the state subsidy in 17 years, and likely sooner, as her math assumes a fixed NFL salary cap, which has exploded in the last 5 years. She also revealed that she was pressed to get the deal done, alleging that 5 other cities had made calls trying to lure the Bills. In August, the town of Orchard Park stated they were looking to hire a consultant to suggest how the area around the new stadium can be rezoned to allow for new development, such as restaurants, hotels, and retail space, while maintaining the quiet nature of the area. The town supervisor stated that they were not looking to make Orchard Park a suburb of Buffalo, and provided no timeline for rezoning. He also stated that anecdotally, developers likely wouldn't make investments in the area unless they were guaranteed that the stadium would be used for events 120 to 150 days per year. And considering that the Bills only play 8 to 10 home games per season, and cities like Toronto, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland are nearby, this likely won't happen, as Buffalo is nowhere near large enough a metro area on its own to command high-profile concerts or conventions. So I imagine that when he says development, he's probably referring to a Holiday Inn and an Applebee's. That same month, the Buffalo Bills released new renderings of club spaces at the new Highmark Stadium, featuring the Founders Club with heated seats, the East Club with premium food options, and the Field Club, which will be located near the Bills' locker room, where club members can watch the team walk out to the field on game day. While projects like a new accessory building and demolition of the current Highmark Stadium will take place after the Bills' new venue opens, Polka states that construction is comfortably on schedule with an intended opening date of July 1st, 2026. It's not all good news for the Pagulas though, as the most recent estimates suggest that the stadium is about $600 million over budget, which they're on the hook for, raising the total estimated cost to $2.1 billion. Titans and the city of Nashville, Bud Adams received a handsome deal with the city when he moved his Oilers to Tennessee after a heated final few years in Houston. What came out of the deal was what is today known as Nissan Stadium. It was built at an awkward time for stadium design, as cities were finally moving beyond the multi-purpose model, but it took a decade or so before the ideal stadium design became obvious. Given that Nashville had a lopsided deal with the Titans at Nissan Stadium, where the Titans got all the revenue and Nashville bared all the costs, the city undergoing a massive transformation in the last decade, and the exploding popularity of the NFL, officials decided in 2023 to demolish and replace the 20-year-old stadium instead of renovating it. The Titans are about 10 months behind the Bills. Groundbreaking took place on Leap Day 2024, and immediately site excavation began with hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of dirt being removed from the site. Similar to the Bills, about 600 personnel will be actively working throughout the foundation, concrete pouring, and ironwork phase, before adding an additional 1,000 people from a variety of building trades sometime next spring, of which construction is expected to continue throughout the winter. Setting of the stadium risers is expected to begin in early 2025, and they are currently being constructed in Atlanta. So, if you live near I-24 or I-75 in Georgia, keep an eye out for a constant parade of flatbed semis hauling huge pieces of concrete. They are probably headed to Nashville for the new stadium. As of making this video, crews are finalizing the 800 concrete piers that are cast in place en route on bedrock 30 to 40 feet below the surface. And while construction is progressing, officials have been releasing more details about the new stadium. In January 2024, the Titans released a one-of-a-kind video rendering of the stadium, showing concourse and club spaces in a full 3D dimensional model with animated people for scale. It was also revealed that the 360-degree continuous LED board was being referred to internally as the Ring of Fire, a nod to Tennessee's history with the music industry in both Nashville and Memphis. Additional details unveiled were that the stadium will have underground parking for players, similar to most other stadiums built recently. Also, the grand porches on the renderings will be accessible via roll-up garage doors. So, I'm left to assume that the porches will not be open for every game, but rather only on days that are weather permitting. Officials currently believe that the stadium will be complete in the spring of 2027, a year later than the original timeline, which put the city out of the running for the 2026 World Cup. And unfortunately for Amy Adams Strunk, before a single steel beam has been placed, the $2.1 billion project is already $135 million over budget, raising the total estimated cost to more than $2.2 billion. In addition to these two new stadiums, there are tons of other massive projects on deck across the NFL, from the Browns pursuing a new stadium, the Jacksonville renovation, the constant drama with the Bears, who despite having released renderings for two separate sites, are exploring yet another stadium location. And lost in all of this is the Commanders' new stadium plans, in which RFK Stadium still stands despite Washington, D.C. promising to tear it down 2 years ago. However, these teams' leases end much later than the Bills and the Titans, so I would expect we are still at least 1 to 2 years away from hearing solid plans about their future stadiums. All I can say is that it's not a bad time to be in a building trade or work at an engineering firm that designs stadiums. There's plenty of work for you.